Well, folks, the time has come. Dolly Parton is now a rock star. I'm Charlie.
And I'm Corey.
And this week we will be discussing Dolly Parton's newest album. It is entitled Rockstar. This has been a long hinted at album for a while now. She started hinting at it after she was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame because she said, I'm not a rock singer. I shouldn't be in there. But if I'm going to be in there, I should do like a rock album. And so now this album has turned its head and it's here. And so, but we had to do it. It's a wild ride. We've got a beautiful singer doing it who we haven't discussed yet. So that's really fun to do. And a lot of special guests. When Dolly calls, people answer.
We were talking about special guests last week and how it was so cool to see all those, everybody come together. And then this week it's like, yeah, that ain't nothing compared to everybody that came together for Dolly.
In this case, it's a couple of the same names as last week.
True that. It's wild. Down to the personnel on this album as far as session players and cats. I have this awesome little, like, running through it, I have these awesome little just like mini fantasies of like why this person was on this album, maybe why they wanted to be on this album. There's some crazy artists. I won't even go through all of them, but do yourself a favor, check out everybody who's playing on this, not just singing but playing on this album.
It's very notable, and they are prominently given features. Actually, like it's listed as featuring this person, even if they're not singing on it.
Yeah, man.
Which I think is very cool. I do appreciate that. Because these are they're very impressive, important people too, even if they aren't singing.
They are important, and it's really and I'm glad it's done here, but it's very important if you're going to take that stance. Hey, I'm not Rock and Roll Hall of Fame worthy because I'm not in rock like that. You're not just doing one-offs with big names. Everybody's in on this, and you're showing it out there, but embodying it or embracing the whole entire rock, which is cool as a premise. It's super cool.
Yes, I completely agree that it is cool. And obviously there are a lot of covers here, which makes sense with a not rock artist. It makes sense that we'll go that route. However, there are also 9 Parton compositions on here. And 8 of them are brand new. One of them is a re-recording of an old song, but the others brand new songs. We'll discuss how much each one fits on the rock scale and how much it fits this concept. But I do think it's an important piece how, like, in this massive album, we have almost an album's worth of just Parton originals.
Yeah, I didn't expect that. I knew there were a few on here, but to see almost a full album, like you said, was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was. And the question is, how do they stack up? This has definitely been highly anticipated. There's a bunch of different variants of it, and there is a good possibility that this will become actually Dolly Parton's first #1 album on the Billboard 200.
That I hope it does.
I hope so too.
My main thing is I really am more so curious to see how the mass populace what it does with this, because there's so much, in my opinion, that could be done. You could really learn a few things. You could really reminisce on things past. This album hits a lot of cool places in my brain as far as the way it makes me feel, so I'm excited to see how everybody feels as well.
So far the critics, it's mixed to positive, I would say. The reviews, the criticisms being noted are definitely big ones, but a lot of people just admire the fact that she's doing it, which you do have to give her credit for. Admittedly, that is a big part of the appeal of this. It is very much a novelty in that way, because it is not what you expect from the Queen of Country.
No, and even the worst criticisms I saw always went back a little bit on what they said by saying, but it's Dolly, and because of that, it's a little bit better than what I'm saying. I also like that this album didn't rest on those laurels. It doesn't feel like, for better or for worse, that it was just like, okay, give me the top hits and I'm going to sing them out. And I'm happy about that. As much of a novelty as it is, it didn't really put itself up there like that.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen this just kind of describe this Dolly karaoke. I wouldn't go that far. I do think there's a bit more if you're listening to it that makes some of these different. But maybe you could almost split it in half. Like maybe you could say half of it's just Dolly Oki and the other half is not almost. I don't know.
Dolly Oki is a new thing, and it's definitely a thought I had throughout this. My thought was more so like almost like being at a karaoke evening and Dolly being in your crew and getting up there and singing some songs that you don't expect her to sing. That's where I went, but I don't think it's anywhere near her just belting out karaoke songs.
No, not at all. There was definitely more put into it. One interesting thing though is there were a few duets that, because of like shipping or time constraints or something, that didn't make the album, or like if I don't know if they were recorded or not, but if they were, they're not here. And there's one name I'm very disappointed was not included, and that's Cher. I'm thinking you couldn't have waited for Cher, really?
Yeah, I can only imagine that it's super tough to get everybody together regardless. I mean,
It
I read,
is.
she definitely
No,
couldn't get Mick Jagger, and
no.
tried, and that happened a few times throughout this album, so that
Yep,
does
it
stink
did.
though.
But you know what? I think that's enough preamble. I'm ready to talk about all these songs. I'm ready to get into it.
A little Easter egg: we usually start off our Zoom call here when we're doing this, talk about the week, talk about what's going on in each other's camps. We basically had a mini podcast. We said hello and then just started talking about this album. So we are super excited to get this rolling.
Yeah, it was fun to dive into Dolly Land, or Dolly, not the real Dollywood, but the figurative Dollywood again. Definitely, I mean, it's definitely made me want to go back out and listen to some of my Dolly CDs that I have. So it's that kind of thing. But in the meantime, we have this new slash old material, and we're gonna dive into it because we just can't wait any longer.
Yeah, man. Let's do it.
Yes. So the album begins with the title track, Rockstar. This is a Parton composition, and it features Richie Sambora, formerly of Bon Jovi, on guitar. I kind of see this as more of an intro to the album than an actual serious song. It's pretty silly. It doesn't take itself too seriously. I think that works both in its favor and to its detriment. For me, it's honestly a bit more to its detriment. Like I don't hate it, but I do think of Dolly Parton as a serious musician. She's not just some campy joke figure. She's a very legit and a heartfelt artist. And this doesn't showcase that. This showcases another side of her that I don't care for as much.
Yeah, my first notes on this track is this is Dolly's WWE entrance song. It definitely didn't take itself too seriously. And for me, I try to look and think like, okay, Dolly, she likes to do these little talking pieces here and there on her albums. She's just that kind of beautiful artist. I can sort of dig this little intro with the child and the parents. For me, the distorted vocals coming out of it to start a Dolly album, I would much rather have her voice in the forefront here. Those distorted vocals took a little bit away from me. By the middle, it starts to really showcase. I have a tough time with it trying not to feel like it's just contrived. And that's what I don't want this album to be. So first listen on this first track, I'm like, oh, Jesus, no. Like, don't do that. Don't do that. I can hear you in there. Let's not have a contrived album where you're just doing it for the sake of it. So I got a little worried there. As far as the composition goes, like I said, it's there. It's a neat little. I like the thought of handling it as an intro. I'm with that. From now on, track one is just the intro to this album for me.
Yeah, I completely am with you on that. And I think that's pretty well evidenced by the fact that track two was actually the lead single, not this.
It makes sense.
Because yeah, I do kind of think that track two is more of a full real song opener, and that is World's on Fire. She performed this back at the ACM Awards back in May. There's way too many country awards shows. I don't follow country much, but who can keep up with that? It's too much. I did watch that performance and I thought, it doesn't sound that out of place from modern country music at this thing. It's not the most rock thing I would have expected, but I do like it. It's a rare explicitly political song from Dolly Parton. Like she's straight up saying the world's on fire and we're in trouble. And that's usually not what she's doing, but I do think that it is a novelty, yes, but I do think it's serious too, because it is not in her usual wheelhouse. It's like I definitely believe what she's saying and do think that it's sincere. It's a good different side of her. I don't think it really rocks hard, but I do think that it's a good intro to everything and to the era because it definitely has an earwig of a chorus. So I do think it was a smart single choice, and I do think it eases the country Dolly fans into this new sound.
Yeah, that the country sound here can't be denied. Whether it eases country Dolly fans into this album, I hope that's what it does. Whether it sings as just her style that is unescapable, I also hope that that's the reason here. Being one of her originals, for me, I take a step back and say, wait a minute, is there a Dolly album in here? And they're just trying to stuff it into this rock album. We talked about how much original content is here. This one doesn't necessarily fit as well as I would expect it to. And again, a little bit worrisome first listen through by track two, like, man, is she going to be able to pull this rock premise off? We get the claps right after the intro on this. I like the way the song sets off. I like the opening riff of this song. I think that fits the most out of this song. But once you get into these claps, it really brings us back into the country. Now, she does a great job not being too preachy here inside of this political take. I really like how she does that, keeps it in this very country but poetic style throughout this message. For me, the song really sets off into, or it gets propelled into this place where it becomes a fuller composition right after, like about 2 minutes. And she says, though, just be sure the words can't break bones, or can break bones. I'm sorry, can break bones. And then it really sets off. Doesn't necessarily fit where I think this album is supposed to go at this point, but it's okay. It's a cool song. It's a neat original from her in a new vein.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. Is it like one of her top songs ever? No, but it's a cool little thing. But now, after two originals, we are on to our first collaboration cover. Even though it's not really as much of a collaboration as I would have thought. This is Every Breath You Take, and it's credited as featuring Sting, but he doesn't even have his own verse. He's just on the backing vocal. So this is not a Dolly and Sting duet, which I was a little disappointed by. Actually, no, not a little, just straight up disappointed. I was expecting a duet between these two singers. But disregarding that, this unfortunately does not work for me at all, really, because this is a menacing song. It's about stalking somebody, and Dolly Parton does not have that in this interpretation. There's nothing menacing about the voice. She sings it straight, and that's a problem. This is going to come up a lot here. When we're sticking to the original arrangements and you sing it as you usually would, I think that's a real problem when you're not hearing what you expect against a carbon copy almost of the original track. This is a similar one, and I don't know, this doesn't work for me at all, unfortunately.
It works for me in a weird way that is almost the opposite of what you were saying, but more so I was after track 1 and 2, I was happy to hear that she was doing Sting's verse. And I really liked the fact that she was taking it on, and at least at this point, that the artist was embracing it. I think Sting added a lot here where they had these original harmonies, which I really enjoyed as far as the composition went along. They worked well together, their voices worked well together, and I liked it for that reason. As far as sticking to the record version, I'm not looking for note to note here. I'm actually not looking for note to note here, but this one, it did fall a little flat as far as paying homage to its original form.
Yes, I mean, I don't want note to note necessarily either. And she has in the past beautifully reinterpreted songs and made them her own, but I do think it's an issue when she's singing it as she would sing Jolene, and it's not Jolene, it's Every Breath You Take. And suggestion, I think the better song choice would have actually been Every Little Thing She Does Is Magic.
That would have been cool.
I think that would have been a much better song choice for Dolly.
Her hitting those everything, that would have been cool. That's neat. I like that. I also can't believe that this is the first of the duet pieces, so to speak, as
Not
far
much
as
of a
on
duet.
yeah, as far as on the album. Like, this is the one that you're leading us with and saying this is what I feel like you lose a couple listeners here. There's way more powerful renditions, so to speak, that could be put in this third spot, and this could be later on the album and maybe even shine a tad bit better depending on placement.
I do agree. This is not the best spot for it. It is too early on.
Yeah.
And we're actually going to keep the ballads going, actually, a bit with track 4, which is Open Arms, Journey cover. And actually, this features Steve Perry himself, and that is pretty impressive because Steve Perry has not performed or recorded with Journey in 25 years.
Yeah.
So they still tour all the time. I will not go see them, though, because what's the point? In my opinion, I think Steve Perry elevated that band greatly. One of the best voices ever. He doesn't sound the same here as he did in the 80s. But I still think that it's a singular, unique, beautiful voice, and I'm happy to hear him singing on it. And honestly, I think this song works well for Dolly. I think it's a power ballad, but it's soft, and I think that suits her very well. I think this was a really good song choice, and it's been covered a lot through the years, but I'll say this now, maybe a hot tea take for some. I'll take this over Mariah Carey's version any day.
Well, speaking of Mariah Carey's version, I would think that maybe I'm reaching, but that some of the younger listeners to this album are automatically going to think Mariah. So for me, it was an odd choice again, pacing wise, this early in the album, because I think it speaks to Mariah more than rock for a bit of some generations there.
Yeah.
That being said, Perry and Dolly kill it together. It gets a little bit weak on Perry's end towards the end of the song, as far as harmonies go, but I think Dolly's perfect for this. I'm with you. I like this version. It's definitely a good pick for Dolly. Again, it's just pacing or spots on this album, like where songs are placed. I think it could have been arranged a lot better, actually.
Oh, yeah.
To make it a cohesive running piece rather than like, oh, okay, I'll skip to this or I'll skip to this.
Oh, yeah. I feel like it's almost more of a playlist than an album.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
I mean, this isn't even this early on on the Escape album from Journey that it comes from, or their greatest hits. So,
yeah, no, it's real.
like, it's on the second half of Escape.
Yeah.
So that's all I'm saying. So I'm not understanding that choice, but I still enjoy it very much individually on its own. Yeah. But we are going to pick up the pace with track number 5, which is Magic Man, the Carl version. I'm thinking this is named for Dolly's husband, Carl. He's a big rock fan. She's actually said multiple times over the years, yeah, he really doesn't care for my music. He's more into like AC/DC and stuff. Like,
That's awesome.
so I like that it does this. But this we do get Ann Wilson, the amazing, iconic lead singer of Heart, as well as Howard Leese, who was the longest serving band member of Heart, not with the last name Wilson. He hasn't played with them since 1998, but he's here on it. He played the Moog keyboards on the original version, and I love that they got him back for this, even though he doesn't play with the Wilsons anymore. I do think overall this is a pretty good recreation of that Magic Man sound. And I did see this one was released before the album. I've seen some flack for the vocals out there, like these two don't sing well together. They're very different singers. I actually think Dolly's voice is a lot closer to Nancy Wilson's than Ann Wilson's.
Most definitely.
But for me, it works in its own weird way. I think Dolly, like for those verses of the song, which were sung kind of softly to begin with, I think she pulls that off well. And I mean, this isn't the craziest vocal show off for Ann Wilson. It still is one. They all are, but the original isn't. But I think she sings the song well. Maybe a bit unexpectedly, but I think Dolly sings it well. And Ann, I expected her to sound good. She sounds fantastic as usual.
Yeah, I love this version. I'm with you. I was really questioning how they were going to handle this duet. On paper, just my brain going, I'm like, ooh, this might be tough. I don't know. Like people are saying, they don't think they work well together. I disagree. I think this shows again, and we get this a lot on the ones that really stick the landing, in my opinion, but the original artist taking a different perspective and taking a step back, because this is a Dolly album, just really as support for her. And I like that. And in my opinion, Ann Wilson does this here by pulling her punches a bit, as far as vocally, and for the right reasons here. And I love it. Howard Leese is still rocking those riffs. It ends on that triumphant ending, and they stick the landing. This should have been in the 3 spot. How the hell? I'll get. How could you not put this right there? If you're gonna have that Rockstar, or which we said intro, World on Fire, then throw Magic Man right there, and everybody, hook, line, and sinker, is in on this album, and the album's rolling.
Yeah, I agree. This would have worked better with different songs surrounding it at the very least. Yeah. But I do enjoy this version a lot. I think this is a pretty hard song to ruin, but they did it justice, and that's what matters. So, all right, Magic Man, best so far. I don't think it's a thing I don't think that's a hot tea take to say it's the best so far here.
It's definitely at the lead. We'll keep a tally. Magic Man is the champion of this album so far.
So far, yes. But now we are on to another cover duet. This is Long As I Can See the Light, Creedence Clearwater Revival. John Fogerty joins her on this. This is a really good material match. I feel like the Creedence Clearwater Revival, they have like that rootsier, bluesier kind of sound, and I think that suits Dolly Parton well. I think they both sound good on it. The problem is I don't love the production here at all. I think it sounds just way too slick and not Creedence. It's just they're doing like the Creedence arrangement, but it doesn't have that raw energy that Creedence gives, and that's the big issue for me. This one's a pretty big disappointment, in my opinion. Great material match. Could have been great. Probably would be amazing live, but not with this arrangement.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I hate saying that I don't like this right off the bat, but even from first listen, just the intro and the first piece is like, wow, I am not with this. They right off the bat, they just don't seem to fit together for me, and it falls flat. Later on, they come, I guess, full circle where the voices are actually doing what I thought they might do, but it's a little bit too much too late. It's definitely, it definitely didn't beat Magic Man. Magic Man still has the title at this point. In my notes, I have least favorite so far because sadly enough, it is my least favorite so far on the album.
Yeah, it's definitely the biggest disappointment so far for sure. I mean, honestly, hearing it, I'm just like, oh well, at least they didn't ruin Fortunate Son or Proud Mary. I
Uh,
hate to think that, but
yeah, we could do a whole podcast of why, like I've gone deep diving into like why haven't they done this? Why didn't they do this?
oh,
Did
there's a lot of that here.
yeah,
I have suggestions as to how you could have done this differently.
heard.
But we're not well. We're kind of it doesn't really. We're kind of there, but it doesn't apply as much to the original songs because they're originals. And but we're on to track number 7, which is Either or. This is a duet with Kid Rock. Not everybody, not all of Dolly's fans are happy about this duet partner choice because Kid Rock is known for his conservative politics that does not jibe with everybody, which I understand. But Dolly says, "Oh, I love everybody and I hate cancel culture," and so that's a good neutral statement for her. But a part of me is wondering, like, did they do it just to draw attention to the song and get people to listen to it, have some controversy in there? Because the song, it's a filler track. There's really nothing there, and that's not on Kid Rock. I'm not going to fault him for the song. I just don't think the song itself has much going for it. I definitely, actually, I'll say it now. This already is the weakest original, easily. All the other ones are better coming forward from this.
Pulling no punches there, and I'm with you. We say not to get ahead of ourselves, but I'll tell you straight up and down, I'm in an either or situation here for me on this track, and that either or is either you keep the actual track and make it a Dolly by herself where it works. It's not a terrible composition. I actually like the song when I'm trying to picture Kid Rock out of it. So my either or is keep it there or find somebody else. Not in a I hate Kid Rock stance, not in a I hate what he stands for stance. I like the way Dolly handled that here with him, but he just takes me out of the song, unfortunately. On this track, I wish this song was with someone else because I think someone that could handle it musically could have added to this and really made this whole. It's a miss. It's a big miss for me. I will say, back to the drawing board, if there ever is, do this song justice, please, because there is a good song in there.
Yeah, I do. It would have. I think it would have been better as just the Dolly solo composition, but it is. You cannot deny that in terms of all the people included on this album, talent wise, Kid Rock is in the bottom part of that.
I can only think he's a very charismatic dude. From what I understand, in the community, he is respected as far as like being one of those artists that's very easy to work with, very approachable,
Yes.
and he runs in a bunch of different circles. The only way I can think is this is like him and Dolly know each other, and it's like, oh, come on, kid, yeah, I'll put you on this one. Let's do this. That's the only way I can figure on this one.
No, I can't imagine he was a hard guest to get.
No, well, even yeah, but more so of like kid, I love him. Come on, we'll do one. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
That's the only way I can figure it out.
Yeah. This would be a crowd killer at his bar in Nashville. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, heard that. Heard that.
But we unfortunately are onto a much better duet with a different singer. This is "I Want You Back." It's a duet with Steven Tyler. It's an original composition, not a Jackson 5 cover. So I know it was easy to have thought like, oh, she's doing the Jackson 5. She's not. This is a pretty solid, like, good Missing Your Lover tune. It definitely has some real the country bluesy elements to it, but I think that's a good choice for the guests, frankly. You got Steven Tyler of Aerosmith, who early on were a straight up blues rock band. They changed into different directions. I like it all from Aerosmith, but that's how it was. But I think they sound really good together. Both singers. He had a good vocal day. I know right now his vocal cords are injured and their tour had to be postponed. I wouldn't be surprised if it gets completely canceled. But enough about that. I'm glad that we have this. I think it's a really nice song. I like this one.
It is. It's a really nice song. I love this track. There's a tiny bit of, in my opinion, and I know you might hate this, there's a tiny bit of over showmanship on Steven Tyler here. He
That's
gets
fair.
he gets me a tad bit at the end with the yeahs. I know it's him. I totally respect the choice of taking him on this blues track. I was so pumped when, I'm not gonna lie, I clicked on this track first because I thought it was Jackson 5. That's why I was laughing when you said that earlier. It was the first track. I was like, no way. But to see this come all the way around and be a neat track was super cool to see. I definitely think the superstar of this track is my man Warren Haynes. Man, he killed it on this track. Listen to this track. He is going at it. I picture him with a big old smile in the studio next to Dolly and Steven Tyler. That's a trio right there. So shout out to my man Warren Haynes. He killed it on this one. It is definitely a cool track.
Very much so. But it's funny that you mentioned first one you click on, because anyone who knows me will not be surprised that the first one I clicked on was the next song, which is our ninth track. What has rock and roll ever done for you? This is it. It's the duet with Stevie Nicks. There is even a meme saying that the world will come together once Dolly Parton and Stevie Nicks do a duet together. Well, they've done it. And they picked a really interesting way to do it. It's unlike any other duet here. It's not a hit. It's an unreleased song that Stevie Nicks wrote in the mid 80s. She first recorded it during the Rock a Little era, which that's an album that we covered. If you want to hear about that, check out our episode. And she also, Stevie Nicks also wanted to put it on Fleetwood Mac's Tango in the Night, but her bandmates rejected it. Which is very interesting because it is a better song than When I See You Again on that album. But that's a different discussion. It's not the best Stevie Nicks song ever. It's not the best thing she wrote. I don't think it's the most major lost gem. I do think that it's a fun song and it's about how like she'd do it all again if she could. And this was a good way of having a guest elevate the song for on both counts.
Yeah.
Because I think Stevie knew like this song needs something else, and Dolly wanted Stevie on the album. So I think it's very mutually beneficial. And they're having so much fun together. Like they have banter in there, and obviously it's planned out, but it sounds really genuine. And they're just, I can tell these ladies had a really good time recording this. And that is what matters most to me. So I'm a really big fan of this. I'm so happy it exists.
It's super awesome. It's done for the right reasons. You can tell. You can tell they're having fun. I will even go as far as to say, as a Nick song, this has a country mentality in its lyrics. Of even you think the title is a melancholy title, but by the end you see rock and roll has done everything for the narrator. So it's a neat one. I really enjoy that they're together on this. I'm so glad in this case that we didn't get a Stevie Nicks hit with Dolly on it. I think this is the way you do, I won't say the way you do the album, but this is the way you do it with the artists that you could have picked 17 million hits. You do one from the heart, and these girls had a ball, and it shines. It shines like a diamond right here, especially in this little part of the album that we're in. It shines like a diamond.
Yeah, no, I'm glad they didn't pick a hit either. I wish more people followed this route, honestly, but I'm glad that they did the right thing here. But if you are wondering, well, what's rock and roll done for me? One thing it can do for you is hopefully get you to subscribe to our podcast wherever you're listening to us. Follow us wherever, whether it be Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon. We're on all of them. Also follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Turntables and Tea Podcasts, and on X at Turntables Tea. That's where you'll get all the updates on our latest episodes. And now back to Rockstar. We've got a solo cover coming up, and this is an ambitious one. For track number 10, it's none other than Purple Rain. I don't think this song needs an introduction.
Oof.
I wasn't sure about this. I think a lot of it, I was literally talking to our friend Sal about this at the bar. I was like, I just cannot imagine Dolly Parton singing I never wanted to be your weekend lover.
There's a lot about this that I was like, I don't care what multiverse it is, it doesn't make sense in my brain going in.
No, no, not at all. I'm like, how's this gonna be? But funny story, this seems to be the one getting singled out the most by fans. There was even a Rolling Stone article about this particular cover praising it. And I agree. She pulled it off. And she took some small liberties with this song. Like nothing that's going to make Purple Rain unrecognizable, but she tones down the overt rock elements, focuses more on the gospel and soul. We even get a choir in there. And I think that was a smart choice for Dolly to do because she has experience singing gospel songs. I wish more songs took these small liberties with the arrangement so Dolly could make them her own. I think what she did here was really beautiful. And I mean, this song's from my favorite album of all time. I was skeptical, but she pulled it off. So props to you, Dolly. Honestly, many things can be forgiven because she pulled Purple Rain off.
It was a good choice with the gospel mindedness of Purple Rain. It was something that in that aspect I really thought was attainable. Maybe I don't dig it, man. I don't dig it. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying she didn't get through it. I'm not saying she didn't pay homage. I'm not saying, again, I am saying that it was a great choice to do it in this pulled back. Here's my beef. The rockless sense of it kills me on it, because at what point does it serve to put this on here if you're just going to do it as a gospel? That's really where my beef comes from. Does she hit it in a beautiful musical sense? Of course, she's a killer like that, but I don't know, man. It doesn't hit for me. I'm not digging it. Man, I want to dig it, but I'm not. I'm sorry.
Oh, all right. You're in the minority on that one. That is what it is looking like. So, okay. Yeah. But
that sorry was to you and to Dolly for some reason. Like I feel like I'm doing an injustice here saying I don't dig it, but it's not me, man.
I do get what you're saying about the rock is stripped from it, but at the same time, I get what you mean about it fitting on the album, but I think it was the smart choice to do that because I'm sorry, I don't want to hear some Nashville person try and play Prince's riffs. Because that would have been horrible. Then I would have been upset.
I'll play devil's advocate, though. The amount of players that we have on this, shit, let Warren Haynes play Prince's riffs. You know what I'm saying? Let Frampton play the riffs. That's just me. And I know that's like a fantasy booking type of thing. They're not all standing in the room together, but it's just my beef.
Well, it's funny. So speaking of Peter Frampton, he actually got on the album because his friend sang backup on I Want You Back, the Steven Tyler duet, and then he ended up on the album, and they covered Baby I Love Your Way from Frampton Comes Alive. I mean, I'm happy to hear that he's on the album because I know he's had some pretty severe health issues in recent years, so I'm glad to hear that he's still able to play and sing for us. That's really good news. And he sounds good on the song. And I think this was the smart choice. I mean, Frampton's not so heavy that like a Dolly Parton doing a Frampton song is that out of the realm. It's not as odd as her doing a Prince song, that's for sure. But I do think this was the right choice, and I think they sound good doing it. I This one passes for me.
Yeah, the small fantasies I was talking about, going through the list and being like, how do people get on, or how does this come about? And when I read that, this is the epitome of it. Like Frampton, it speaks to the dolliness of Dolly Parton. It speaks to, who she is, this wild artist that everybody wants to be in on, and one of those people is Frampton, like literally calling his friends like, dude, get me on this album, I want to get in, I want to do a track with Dolly. Great pick. Did I need to hear Dolly on the vocoder? No, I didn't, so we didn't have to go too far into the Frampton discography. I think this one was a really good one. He does sound awesome on it. Inside of it, I was almost like, are they going to let Peter Frampton sing on this track? Because Dolly gets a good bit of it. And I like that. Again, I like when you have these artists coming and taking a new perspective on their tunes. This one's definitely a pass for me. We sort of forgot if anything had taken it away from Magic Man, which I don't think it has. Maybe Purple Rain has taken it away for you, but this one's up there. It's done really well. It's done really well.
I agree completely. Yeah, I do agree. We did not need to hear the Dolly Parton version of "Show Me the Way."
Yeah, right.
Would have been fun in an ironic sense, but not for this.
Save that for the Dolly-oki album.
Yeah. But we're going to be shown another way now with our 12th track, which is I Hate Myself for Loving You. This is a Joan Jett song, and once again, Joan Jett's on the song because everybody's here. The album's called Rockstar, and you're not going to sing I Love Rock and Roll. That's all I'm saying.
I don't know. I'm the other side on that. I think I was so freaking happy that they didn't do that song. I'm sorry, maybe because I don't want it to be so on the nose. I want it to have some tongue in cheekness. That's just me. Again, fantasy booking, but for me, that one was an upside.
Oh, yeah, we're on two sides of the same coin there. I think that would have been awesome. But either way, this one kind of similar to the Stevie Nicks song. It does have some banter going on. I don't think it's quite as genuine as it was on the Stevie Nicks song. But I think, well, Joan Jett's a different personality, a bit more buttoned up than Ms. Nicks. But I love that Dolly's really going in and working with the rock queens here. That's a great. I just love that she did that. These two singers harmonize beautifully. I wasn't expecting that, but they do. This is a bit jarring to hear Dolly Parton singing lead on, because, like I said, the arrangement's a carbon copy of the original, and she's just not that singer. But I can't think of a Joan Jett song where that really would have worked, because they're all, for the most part, pretty heavy. At least her hits are. So in that regard, it's an odd idea. I mean, I understand wanting Joan Jett on the album. I think that she absolutely should be here. You're not going to hear me say that, but I do think it's a strange fit for this Dolly-oki, if you will.
I'm with you on that part. The fit on this is a bit strange. I don't know whether that adds to me enjoying this. This one had the most, and I say this with the utmost respect, this one had the most comedic relief on the album for me. The way this started off with this Grand Ole Opry sort of banter back and forth, it was really a really wild contrast to who and what I think of when I think of Joan Jett, and a really wild way to go into this song. It just is a weird. Weird's a crazy word to use, but it's just a different fit here that is not my favorite. It's a good way through this song, but it's not, doesn't hit right for me. But I am glad that it's not I love rock and roll. I like I said, I think that would have been just too nail on the head. But yeah, it still hasn't taken the title away just yet.
Oh no, this is pretty middle of the pack overall for me. In terms of the album,
Yeah.
but we are gonna go into a different route with a slower song again. I do think that the transitions between up tempo and slower songs are a bit jarring here. I will definitely say that, but
Yeah, I stopped saying it just because I feel like I was beating a dead horse, but
it bears saying at this point. We literally are going from Joan Jett to Bob Seger.
yeah, there's so many different ways to arrange this album. It's aggravating almost
It
by this
it
point.
it actually is, but we do get possibly the signature Bob Seger song, Night Moves. Bob Seger was unable to participate because he has had vocal issues, unfortunately. I'm sorry to hear that. That's the case. But Dolly got Chris Stapleton instead, a Nashville staple, but he has the voice for it. His voice works for both rock and country, and he seems to be a pretty reserved personality in the country music world, which I like because some of them, yeah, I don't like their personalities. Let's just say that, but that's why we don't talk about them on this podcast. But I'm okay with Chris Stapleton. And I think they're very good duet partners. They both come from a Nashville country background, and it works on that level. The problem is that so the song's almost 6 minutes long, and on its own, that's fine. I'm not saying, oh, you have to cut Night Moves, and like, I'm not saying you should. It's a problem when the album's 30 songs long, and track 10 was Purple Rain, which is almost 8 minutes long. I think that these long songs do affect the pacing of the album in a negative way.
Yeah, so I'll play devil's advocate only in the sense of like staying true to the original and some of those longer rock songs. I think there's some on here that could be cut down. Again, it goes into how this whole album is arranged. You know, regardless, this one, as far as a duet, seems the most organic to me. Really close to the Stevie Nicks so far. You know, like this one just feels like it was meant to be. It's so sad to hear that Seeger couldn't get in on this, and it wasn't like they planned it knowing that. From what I've read, and I believe you've read, you know, they had to on the last minute bring in Stapleton for this. He kills it, man. They both kill it, but like he's a really good choice for this. He does. He has that voice. They do this version. They do this original really well. They pay homage to this original super on point. I definitely dig this one. This is a pass for me, even with its length, just because it stays so on top of the original.
I don't well, no, I don't mind the length on its own for the song itself. I just don't love it in the pacing of all of this. That's my problem.
I hear you. Whoever, well, I shouldn't say because I don't know, but I'm mad at the person that arranged this album as far as by track, you know.
Not the smartest. And speaking of arrangements, the next one is a pretty different choice for a rock album. Track number 14 is Wrecking Ball. This is a duet with Miley Cyrus. The idea to record this came after Dolly and Miley sang this on Miley's New Year's special this past year. And I did watch that. That was my New Year's special of choice. And it was a very nice TV moment, but it was a medley along with I Will Always Love You. And it was lovely to hear them. And Miley is Dolly's goddaughter, so obviously there's that familial bond that's beautiful between the two. But just because it was cool on TV, I don't think that means we need to go into the studio and record it. I don't. This is not a rock song, first of all, not in any way, shape, or form. It never was, and it's not here. It gets really stripped back, but the problem with that is I don't think Wrecking Ball's a very good song to begin with. It's a pretty generic pop ballad that topped the charts because of the video.
Woo, tell them how you really feel.
Yeah.
So you're not about this one, huh?
I am not this particular song. No, I don't think this was the right choice for this album. I'm not against having Miley here, but Miley, if they were going to do a Miley Cyrus song, we have the whole Plastic Hearts album, which is a rock album. It would have made much more sense to do a song off of that. I think Angels Like You would have been a really strong choice for Dolly and Miley to do. I know Wrecking Ball was a big hit. Dolly sings the song very well. They both do, but I think the song's a bit beneath Dolly Parton. It's just not, I don't think it's even one of Miley's favorites at this point in time.
Yeah, I talk about the mini fantasies again. I going back to the New Year's show, I would have to think this was one of those. I'd love to do this with my godmother. This would be such a cool thing. And I'm with you. I dig it there. Here, I will not say that both of them don't crush this as far as singing together and doing this. This one, for me, is a bit of the artist not taking a back step. This is the like real duet, unfortunately, so far. And I don't like it in that sense of it feels more put on this album as a I'm going to put this on because my goddaughter, which I dig, and it even gets a pass. I was going to say it gets a pass, but I'll give it that. It belongs here only because of this familial bond and this. It doesn't fit, like you were saying, as a rock song. And there's way better Miley rock songs in my opinion as well. Sang beautifully, but again, this one not my favorite. Not my favorite.
Well, also, the familial bond is there, but I think we have to discuss the machine aspect on there. Miley did have one of the top hits of this year. So, I mean, there's definitely, I think, some commercial consideration as to her being featured on the album because of all these people, many iconic names. How many of them had a hit this year?
Yeah. No, I feel you. I don't want to take away from the beauty of them singing. This, like, you take it off this album. I love listening to them together on this. It's a cool composition, but on this album, the way we're talking about it in the structure of this,
no, it doesn't fit this concept at all. That's the problem with it. Now, the good news is that we will do an actual rock song for track 15. This is I Can't Get No Satisfaction, the very famous Rolling Stones song. She did reach out to Mick Jagger to record this with her. He had a scheduling conflict. So instead, she called in Brandi Carlile and Pink. So this is a pretty random trio, not gonna lie. Very similar arrangement to the original. Oh boy. I think this is the most natural voice fit for the song is definitely Pink.
Yeah.
She has that thing. Dolly is a lighter singer. I don't think she sounds bad. It is a bit of a strange fit. Again, Brandi Carlile was not the right choice to sing a verse on the song at all. I don't think her segment works at all. That has that very nice folksy down to earth kind of thing. It doesn't work for the Rolling Stones, and this is perhaps the biggest example of a missed opportunity for me because I understand wanting to do a more up-tempo song, but the Stones have created some killer ballads, and I think Dolly, just imagine Dolly doing Wild Horses or You Can't Always Get What You Want. That's my biggest thing with this.
Oh,
This really could have been. Stones are an essential band. I think it's great she covered them. She definitely could have picked a much better song for her.
yeah. Oof. We started talking about this before we started the podcast tonight, but I'll tell you right now, this one is the biggest miss on the album for me. Don't get me wrong, I'm with you on the Pink vocal matchup here. Yeah, this is a oh man, I don't want to sound too terrible, but I'm gonna give it straight on this. This is your cookie cutter. All three of these artists happen to be at a festival together. They all know the words to this song and they could do it in their sleep. Let's put them together and do it whether it works or not. And it doesn't work here, man. You're going to put Brandi Carlile on there. I love the ones that you said, but why not do Lovin' Cup? Lovin' Cup would have been sick. And I don't know if Pink would have fit, but Pink will find a way. She always does inside of it. But any of the songs that we've said would have worked out better here. This just ends up for me being a throwaway stage performance that in my opinion, the only cool thing about it is you get to be like, I saw Dolly, Pink, and Brandi Carlile on stage together, which unfortunately on an album, that don't mean anything to me.
No, it doesn't. And again, so many other choices. I just thought Shine a Light. That would have been a good
yeah, man.
I think it should have been a Dolly. So I don't think she needed the guess. I think she should have done a Stones ballad herself, and she would have murdered it.
Yeah, Wild Horses would have been sick.
Yeah.
What was the second one you said?
You can't always get what you want.
And that would have been dirty. That would have been super dirty.
Yeah. Many better options. This is not it. But wow, this is crazy. We are now at the end of the first half of the album. That's insane to me. But because this is a 30-song album, this is a 2-part episode. So, with that being said, you gotta stay tuned next week for our thoughts on the rest of the album. Yeah, hopefully we will get more satisfaction from it than we did the last song.
If you didn't say it, I was gonna say it. We need some satisfaction after that.
We definitely do, most definitely. So until then, do your best to create your own satisfaction while you're waiting for our take on the rest of all of this.
Peace.